Ladies and gentlemen, there's something magnetic about what we call luxury. It's not merely defined by cost, but by perception. Luxury is not about being expensive. It is about being desired, rare, untouchable, and profoundly unforgettable. To be seen as a luxury is not vanity, it is mastery. It's knowing your value so well that you no longer ask for permission to be seen. But here's the truth. People don't see you as luxury until you do. What we radiate from within becomes the image we project. Today, I'll reveal 9 secrets, but let's begin with 5 essential keys. Master these, and you won't need to chase validation. It will find you. People do not hunger for facts. They yearn for meaning. Beneath the surface of reason lies the instinctual pull toward myth, the unconscious drive to see not just what is, but what it means. When others look at you, they are not merely scanning for your accomplishments, your credentials, or your physical traits. They are searching for the story you inhabit, the symbol you represent in their psyche. This is why luxury is not about cost or exclusivity. It is about narrative. It evokes emotion, mystery, reverence. Luxury becomes a mirror in which others glimpse their own longing for transcendence. To be seen as a luxury is not to decorate yourself. It is to become a living symbol, to embody something unforgettable, something archetypal. You must ask yourself, what myth do I represent in the eyes of others? What atmosphere do I bring with me? What images do I awaken when I walk into a room? Are you the healer who brings calm, the sovereign who commands space, the muse who awakens inspiration? People will not remember every word you say, but they will remember how you made them feel, what parts of themselves you stirred. Your task, then, is not to impress, but to embody. Curate your presence as one would craft a sacred icon. Speak not to be heard, but to be felt. Choose words that carry weight, even in silence. Dress not for trend, but for timelessness. Your appearance, your tone, your gestures, they are all brushstrokes in the painting of your myth. I once knew a woman named Maya who understood this intuitively. She never followed trends, she wore no logos, but her presence turned heads. Her wardrobe was a ritual. On days when she faced hard negotiations, she wore deep crimson, a color that spoke of rooted strength. On softer days, she chose ivory and pearl, tones that carried grace and peace. She did not need to tell people she was powerful, her colors whispered it. Her silence confirmed it. People began to speak about her differently. They described her as elegant, untouchable, refined. But what they were really responding to was not clothing, it was coherence. She knew who she was, and her choices aligned with that knowing. That is what creates myth, when your inner reality and outer expression mirror each other without apology. To own the myth of you is not to invent a persona, it is to strip away the noise until your essence stands revealed, dressed in metaphor. When you do this with honesty and care, people don't just see you, they sense you. You become less a person and more a presence. That is the secret of luxury. It is not worn, it is lived. It is the sacred act of becoming the story others cannot stop remembering. There is a quiet and unspoken truth about the nature of desire. We do not chase what is always in reach. The psyche is drawn toward what feels elusive, what must be earned, what cannot be summoned on command. Rarity, in its truest form, evokes reverence. What is common, even if beautiful, becomes background noise to the soul. This is why luxury is not defined by abundance, but by absence, by its ability to withhold, to resist overexposure, to stand just beyond reach, whispering its value without ever having to declare it. In the realm of human relationships, we often confuse kindness with availability and connection with constant access. But when your presence becomes too easily acquired, when your yes flows freely without discernment, your energy begins to lose its edge. What was once admired becomes expected. What was once felt as sacred becomes mundane. To be perceived as rare, you must learn the art of boundaries, not as armor, but as sacred architecture. When you decide that not every invitation deserves your time, not every conflict your reaction, and not every conversation your full emotional output, something shifts. Your silence begins to echo louder than your words once did. There was once a man I knew, always present in every circle. He was kind, agreeable, and responsive. He answered texts within seconds, attended every gathering, and offered his opinions before they were even requested. People liked him, but strangely they never truly saw him. He had become part of the background. One day, after a season of exhaustion, he quietly withdrew. No announcements, no grand exit. He simply chose solitude. A month passed, then 2. When he returned, he didn't speak more, he spoke less. He no longer explained himself or filled silences. His gaze was slower, his responses delayed, but the effect was undeniable. People leaned in closer. They began to ask questions with real curiosity. Invitations became more intentional. His absence had created space, and in that space, his value multiplied. This is the paradox of rarity. It is not about playing games or creating artificial distance. It is about recognizing that your time, your energy, your presence, they are currency. And currency must circulate with purpose, not impulsively. When you know your value, you no longer fear being missed. You expect it. You understand that in the silence you leave behind, others will begin to realize what your presence truly meant. Just as diamonds are treasured not for their abundance but their scarcity, your worth shines brightest when you're willing to retreat, to rest, to hold your energy like a sacred offering. Not to be poured out indiscriminately, but to be given with intention. To live this way is not to isolate yourself, but to honor yourself. And when you do, the world begins to treat you accordingly. Not because you asked to be seen, but because you became impossible to ignore. There is an invisible field that surrounds each of us the moment we enter a room. Before we speak, before we are even consciously acknowledged, this field makes its presence known. Some may call it energy, others presence, or simply vibe. But it is more than a feeling. It is the subtle and unconscious atmosphere we command. And just as a luxury space alters your emotional state, a velvet-lined lounge that slows your breath, a cathedral that hushes your thoughts, so too can you become the architect of the emotional space around you. This is the true essence of silent influence. People respond not only to what you say, but to what you transmit. Your body carries it. Your pace of speech reflects it. Your silence amplifies it. You have already taught others how to treat you long before your words form. And so, ask yourself with great honesty, what follows me when I walk in? Do I carry tension like static? Do I stir urgency, or do I instill calm? Do people lean in when I speak, or do they brace for noise? Do they brace for noise? The answer to these questions is not found in the mirror, but in the subtle reactions of others. Tightened shoulders, softened eyes, a sudden pause in conversation. The emotional scent you leave behind is your true calling card. Mastering your atmosphere is not about controlling others, it is about commanding yourself. It begins in the breath. The way you enter a room, the way you move, the cadence of your speech. Luxury does not rush, power does not panic. When you begin to slow your words, leave room for silence, and move with deliberateness, something remarkable happens. Others begin to synchronize with your rhythm. They adjust their tone, their urgency, their emotional posture to match yours. In that shift, your influence takes root, not through force, but through resonance. In negotiation workshops, executives are taught a deceptively simple tactic. After asking a difficult question, they are instructed to say nothing, to wait, to let the silence expand. This pause, though uncomfortable at first, creates space for truth. It unsettles the reactive and invites the thoughtful. That same principle can be lived daily, at home, in conversations with loved ones, at work, in moments of conflict, in moments of uncertainty. Do not fill the space. Let your presence become the container that holds the emotion of the moment without being consumed by it. I have seen people who speak little, yet command great respect, not because they dominate, but because they contain. Their calm is not empty, it is magnetic. Others want to be near it, to borrow it, to understand it. This is how luxury feels, like still water in a noisy world. To command your atmosphere is to become the eye of the storm. While chaos moves around you, you remain rooted, silent, listening. And in that stillness, others find their center too. This is how power truly moves, without needing to prove, without needing to shout. It simply is. There is a quiet and sacred strength in the soul that knows how to let go. True value does not chase, plead, or attempt to convince. It waits in its own stillness and allows itself to be discovered. Just as luxury never screams for attention, but rather exists in an elevated state of quiet magnetism, so too must you learn the art of detachment, not as a defense mechanism, but as an expression of deep self-worth. To detach is not to become indifferent, nor is it to harden the heart. It is to rest in the knowing that you are already whole, and that nothing outside of you determines your value. Clinging is born from fear. Fear of not being enough, fear of being forgotten, fear that our worth depends on the gaze or approval of another. This fear is subtle, and it wears many disguises. It can look like over-explaining, like checking your phone for a message that never arrives, like replaying conversations in search of hidden meaning. Each of these small acts erodes your dignity, not because you are weak, but because you are momentarily forgotten your center. You forget that your presence is a gift, and when you forget, others will too. Detachment in its highest form is emotional intelligence at work. It is the awareness that you are not here to perform, to be chosen, or to prove your worth. You are here to express, to create, to experience, and to allow those who are aligned with your frequency to find you without force. When you can stand in your truth, when you can walk away without needing the last word, when you can love without gripping tightly, you begin to embody the essence of real power. You shift from the energy of pursuit to the energy of attraction. There was a woman I worked with who had spent months obsessing over the ending of a relationship. She wanted answers, closure, resolution. She believed that without it she couldn't move on. But closure is rarely granted from the outside. It is an inner act, a reclaiming of your narrative. So she began to invest in herself instead. She poured her attention into building a brand that reflected her passions. She traveled, she expanded. She stopped checking if he had viewed her stories, stopped trying to be noticed. And in time, something changed. The man who once ignored her returned, reaching out with the words, "You became unreachable. It made me realize how rare you are." But by then she no longer needed his validation. Her value had already been remembered by herself. This is the paradox of detachment. The moment you no longer need to be seen, you are. The moment you stop grasping for connection, you become magnetic. In letting go, you don't lose, you return to the truth that your worth was never up for negotiation in the first place. You were never meant to beg for a seat at the table. You were meant to build the room others hope to be invited into. There is a certain kind of presence that requires no explanation. It moves through the world with grace, not because it is trying to be noticed, but because it is anchored in something deeper. something unmoved by the noise of approval or rejection. This is the presence of self-respect, the quiet force that shapes how we are perceived without ever having to announce itself. It is not pride, not vanity. It is the steady recognition that your worth does not need defending. Like luxury, it does not chase validation. It simply is. To make self-respect your signature is to decide again and again that you will not betray yourself for the comfort of others. It means being able to walk away from what does not serve you, not out of bitterness, but out of clarity. It means refusing to shrink in rooms where you are not fully seen, and not because you need others to see you, but because you see you. Self-respect begins internally. It is in the way you speak to yourself when you make a mistake. It is in the tone of your inner voice. Do you berate, or do you teach? Do you punish, or do you guide? People watch more than they listen, and before they follow your words, they follow your energy. You model how others will treat you by how you treat yourself. If you apologize for your existence, others will overlook you. If you bend your boundaries to avoid discomfort, others will press further. But if you learn to say no without guilt, if you pause before giving yourself away, if you protect your time, your space, your peace, others begin to mirror that reverence. You do not need to be hard to be respected, but you must be rooted. The tree does not resist every wind. It bends, but it never forgets its trunk. There's a reason why, in studies of workplace leadership, individuals who set clear boundaries are not seen as difficult, but as confident. They are promoted faster. They are trusted with more responsibility. Why? Because boundaries signal self-awareness. They reflect a person who knows their value and is not afraid to uphold it. The world may not always reward people-pleasing, but it does respond to clarity. To walk through your day knowing what you will and will not tolerate is a form of quiet revolution. It does not need anger to be powerful. It only needs consistency. And perhaps most powerfully, self-respect allows you to forgive yourself, to rest, to say, I do not need to do more to be enough. That permission becomes your signature, an aura that others feel but cannot quite name. It is your sovereignty, your standard. And when you hold it, others will rise, not because you demanded it, but because you reminded them what self-worth looks like in human form. You become a mirror for what they forgot was possible, and that is how true luxury moves, unshaken, unapologetic, unmistakably whole. So far, we've uncovered 5 truths. 1. You must become a myth. 2. Rarity increases perceived value. 3. Handlethal, who are you wealth? 4. Detachment is irresistible. 5. Self-respect is your luxury label. These are not tricks, they are reflections of inner work. The remaining 4 secrets I will share next time go even deeper into the realms of voice, mastery, presence, and the psychology of awe. But for now, remember this. Luxury is not outside you. It is the sacred within you that you refuse to discount. Let them see it by you becoming it. Thank you.